Is the CIA running secret concentration camps in Gaza? Well, not so secretively anymore. Our next guest, journalist Dan Cohen from Uncaptured Media, has uncovered a bombshell about what the CIA is actually doing in Gaza, fresh off his recent trip to Israel. Dan Cohen joins us now. Dan, when I saw your report, my jaw hit the floor. The CIA running concentration camps in Gaza, what did you find?
Yeah, Clayton, that's basically the plan. Right now, the U.S. and Israel have approved a plan to send 1,000 CIA-trained mercenaries, American soldiers, former British soldiers, French, Kurdish soldiers, to create what are concentration camps in the Gaza Strip. And they're basically what they want to do is clear out all resistance in the north of Gaza, which of course is being ethnically cleansed, and we're seeing daily massacres in this area right now. And they want to take a village, a neighborhood called Al Tatra in the northwest of Gaza, and use this as basically a test case to take Palestinians, concentrate them inside neighborhoods, and surround them with walls that they can only enter and exit with using biometric data. So whether that's fingerprints or their eyes, their pupils, their retinas, who knows what it might be. They don't specify, but this is a very modern, technologically sophisticated version of the same kind of concentration camps that what was in Vietnam the U.S. used. They called the Strategic Hamlet Program, or was used in Iraq and Afghanistan, where they called it gated communities was the nice flowery term they used. And so they want to roll this program out. It's been approved by Jake Sullivan, the White House National Security Advisor, who is basically running the foreign policy of the United States, because obviously Joe Biden isn't and Kamala Harris isn't. So this unelected bureaucrat, this war hawk, who famously said Al Qaeda is on our side in Syria to Hillary Clinton, is now running our foreign policy and has approved this. So it's being done through a private company run by an Israeli-American businessman named Moti Kahana. His company he calls the Uber for war zones. So privatized version. So they can send these mercenaries to basically surround these walled off ghettos, and people living inside can only get humanitarian aid if they submit their biometric data and they're approved. The others who don't will not receive any aid, meaning food, water, medicine, anything like that, and presumably those ones will be killed. So this is the counterinsurgency model that the U.S. has applied again and again in the post-World War II era that has failed repeatedly, and I think it's likely to fail in Gaza, as Palestinians are sure to resist.
So let me see if I get this right. The United States government, under Jake Sullivan, and the warmongers in Washington, D.C., have approved a plan that basically funnels millions of dollars to a private company that's going to use former American soldiers, CIA operatives, French soldiers, British soldiers, etc., mercenaries, bring them together to execute this plan, and then they can basically sit back and wash their hands of it because it's being run through a non-governmental organization, right? Oh, the CIA is not involved in this. We've just simply cut a check for it.
Right, exactly. And the man who's actually designing the entire thing, his name is Justin Sapp. He's a longtime American CIA operative official who was one of the first, who led the CIA paramilitaries when the U.S. invaded Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks. And now this guy is is tasked with designing this whole plan for Gaza. And if it's successful in this one neighborhood in Gaza, this is what they want to do throughout it. Now, I reported last November 2023, that the U.S. military's top publication had published an article by a guy named Omer Dostri, who then went on to become Benjamin Netanyahu's spokesperson. And this article called not only for the total destruction of Lebanon, but laid out a few different options for how Israel should handle Gaza, for what to do in the long term, whether that they're try to install the Palestinian Authority there, try to install some other sort of collaborator regime, try to have some kind of international mandate, get Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain to send troops in there to basically occupy for Israel. But none of those countries, or to have a direct Israeli occupation itself, but none of those countries were willing to do it because it would look so bad for them to their populations. But the U.S. is now not only footing the bill, but going to do this bidding of Israel in Gaza by creating these concentration camps for Palestinians. So, this is where our tax dollars are going, $200 million to be exact. This plan has been in the works for, certainly they've been talking about it. That article demonstrates the idea has been circulating of what exactly is going to be the long-term solution, some kind of way to pacify the Palestinians of Gaza. But this specific plan has been in the works since February of this year, and it's basically a U.S. plan that Netanyahu has finally agreed to.
Even some liberals are being slammed for their honesty about what's been happening in Gaza. Writers like Ta-Nehisi Coates, who've admitted to the apartheid state in Gaza, and others. You have Roger Waters, who's not a liberal by any stretch of the imagination, formerly of Pink Floyd, who's been speaking out with his own eyes. You've been to Gaza, you've been to this area, you know it well. So this idea that these people are free, that they'll be free to sort of walk around, is a joke, right? And they will be under basically an authoritarian security state in order to live their lives.
That's exactly what it is. And it's, I think during the COVID era, it's what so many Americans, who were skeptical of the COVID regime, and particularly among conservatives and those who consider themselves patriotic and demand their liberty, they became outraged by this idea that we're going to have this biometric security state that would control every aspect of our lives. But the Gaza Strip is, for many years, has been a laboratory, a testing ground, not only for Israel, but for the international corporate interests. During the COVID era, Israel, a Pfizer spokesperson said that they used the Israeli population as a sort of laboratory for their products. The West Bank is where Israel tests its repression tactics and exports those around the world, especially to the United States. And the Gaza Strip is basically the genocide laboratory and is being used now to develop this strategy. And if you think that your American passport, your American citizenship protects you, you should think again, because this is the exact kind of thing that they want to impose on any kind of population. It doesn't have, whatever it is, if it's racial or any kind of thing, it doesn't have to be a racial thing. It can be anybody who decides, they don't want to take this jab in their arm or whatever it is. Now you're considered a threat to society, and you're going to be treated like a Palestinian stuck in some concentration